Well, thank you very much. It's really a great honor to be here and to be able to present some of the work that we have been doing. It's very hard to summarize 20 years of work in 10 minutes. So let me see if I can do my best. Before I get started, though, I have to acknowledge that the work that we are doing here has been done mostly by grad students from our own university here at UH. So the presentation that I'm going to be giving you today is about the vulnerability of people and species to climate change. After 20 years of working on this thing, it is my feeling that we are screwing it. We are screwing it big time. The changes that we are having in our planet are so massive that there is just no better way to define what we are doing than this single title. 3,000 pages of the IPCC can be summarized on that simple thing. We are screwing it. Let's get down to business. When you think about climate change, can we reduce the lights here a little bit? Climate change is the combination of two things. Us producing an incredible amount of CO2, and I don't think that's surprising for anybody. This is the amount of CO2 that we produce every single day. Look at the amount of CO2 produced in North America, all developed countries. I mean, isn't that insanity? This is the CO2 that we produce every single day. Now, in combination to this, another thing that is happening is that we are taking ecosystems that look like this, and we are transforming those ecosystems. Of course, the causes of this destruction are pretty clear to many of us. There's deforestation. Let me just show you some photographs there. The magnitude of this thing is massive. It's happening everywhere. Nothing with the lights. And this transformation, as I say, is happening for multiple reasons, and it's happening everywhere. There is just a thing here that I'm going to show you about the transformation of our planet. This is how our planet was used to be. Everything was covered with forests. When human civilization started happening, here you can see the effect of the Kama Sutra in India. People reproducing like nobody's business, destroying their environment. Here now you have Genghis Khan being all insatiable, and then the humans start spreading out, and then we move to America, and this is our footprint today. This is our footprint today. We have left 17% of the surface of our planet not affected by human activities. So of course, when you have this combination of us producing a lot of CO2 and us destroying these ecosystems that can take the CO2, the effect result of this is that CO2 will go up. And just last year, for the first time in the last 3.5 million years, the CO2 reached 400 parts per million. In the last 3.5 million years, we never saw something like this. Unfortunately, we need to turn the lights.
That's as dark as it's going to get.
Okay. So believe me, this is a photograph of a beautiful beach here in Hawaii. And what is happening is that these changes in the climate are happening in multiple other things other than temperatures, changing rainfall, sea level, pH, and many other climatic factors. This is also influencing species. See, species, just like you and I, are adapted to live in a very narrow set of climatic conditions. The reason why we are here is because this is the temperatures, the climates that we like. As soon as you change the climate, these species are going to be forced to move, adapt, or go extinct. There are more direct impacts of these climate changes on people, and of course, as we tamper with these ecosystems, we are also damaging their capacity to produce important goods and services that human relies on: food, jobs, revenue. So today, the biggest question for our generation is how vulnerable are we to climate change? Unfortunately, as trivial as that question might sound, we just don't really know the answer very well. The reason being this: here you have the climate scientists, here you have the ecologists, and here you have the social scientists. And these people don't like each other. These are the scientists that for some reason are speaking completely different languages. So it has been very hard to integrate all of this knowledge together. And this is what we have been doing here at the University of Hawaii. And what I'm about to show you is the output of 3 of those results, papers. Let's look at climate change in the ocean. From the climate scientists, we know that the temperature of the planet in the ocean is going to go up by about 5 degrees. The oxygen is going to reduce, the pH is going to reduce as well, and the phytoplankton is going to reduce as well. The importance of this is this. Imagine me, and I'm in a fight with Mike Tyson, right? And I am right there fighting Mike Tyson. I mean, you know that Mike Tyson is gonna kick my butt, right? But since it's only Mike Tyson and before he kills me, I'm hoping to punch him at least once. And I will die proud, knowing that I punched Mike Tyson once. Now, let's have the same scenario, but in addition to Mike Tyson, put 3 other fighters, the 4 of them now fighting against me. So I can forget about punching Mike Tyson even once. Those 4 guys are gonna kill me. Mike Tyson will kill me just by himself. What are the chances that I'm gonna survive those 4 other fighters? This is the same thing that we are doing to the species in the ocean. This is the Mike Tyson in the ocean, temperature. We know these species are not gonna be able to endure these changes in temperature. We are also taking their oxygen, we are reducing their pH, and on top of that, let's take their food out. And that's what we are doing to those species in the ocean. We found, as part of this paper that was published in the journal PLOS Biology, that there is not a single ecosystem in the planet that is not going to be free of this impact. Either you are going to be facing Mike Tyson alone, or you are going to be facing the 4 of them all together. But no single ecosystem free of this. Now it turns out that people depend on goods and services from the ocean, and we found that at the global scale, 870 million people are vulnerable to these changes. This is the number of people that will lose jobs, food, and revenue. To make matters even worse, those people are poor. This is the people that is really going to be screwed as a result of climate change, because they just had no economic capacity to adapt to these changes. Let's move on to land. This is a paper that we just got in review in the journal PLOS Biology. Here, we were interested in asking this question. Plants, we know, and this is the focus of most people, we know that they need to have certain temperatures to survive. But we also know that they need water and they need sunlight. What we wanted to do was to count the number of days in a year in which all of those 3 climatic conditions are good for you to grow plants. Right? So if the temperature is too cold, then that day doesn't count. If there is no enough water, then that day doesn't count either. So then, what we did, we counted the number of days that are suitable today and the number of days that are suitable in the future. What I'm about to show you here is the difference between today and the year 2100. Sucks this light though. So, before I show you the map, one of the things that I want to show you is the scale. Places in red are places that are going to be losing up to 200 days. And in blue are places that are going to be winning up to 200 days. So as you can see, all tropical areas in the world are going to be losing agriculture. Some tropical places up to 200 days. I mean, you don't need to be a farmer to know how hard it will be to grow a plant when you are losing 200 days for you to grow these plants. Now, climate change, however, is not always bad. And in fact, you can see some places in blue. And here is China, Canada, there is a light blue there, and Russia. And this is something that I actually make on this paper, which is a very interesting political recommendation as a result of the effects of climate change, is that the capacity to feed the world will be in the hands of Canada, Russia, and China. So my first political recommendation is, please don't piss off the Canadians. Because the alternative is going to be for you to deal with Russia and China to get your food supply. Because under a climate that is going to warm up, those are going to be the only 3 countries in the world where there is going to be perhaps suitable days for them to grow agriculture. As for people, we calculated that 2.3 billion people are vulnerable to these changes. Now, what about more direct impacts on climate change? And this is a paper that we are just finishing now as a result of my grad course, and we call it the Lethal Heatwave Project. The idea of this project was to take the heat wave in Paris in 2003, that as you might know killed 2,000 people in Paris alone, 50,000 people in Europe. And we wanted to look at the climatic conditions of that event and then see how common those things are going to be in the future. What we found, however, is that there was a similar heat wave in Moscow in 2010 that killed 1,000 people. And then we found another one in Chicago in 1995 that killed 700 people. Then I started to realize that these things were happening everywhere. And so I put my students to actually dig into the literature to find out similar heat waves. And what we found was this. These are the places around the world where there are scientific documentation of people dying because it got to be too hot. So climate change is already killing us. Seeing that insanity. Over 2,000 records of places where people have already died because it got to be too hot. Now, another thing that we found from these papers, by the way, which is very interesting, is that the people that die the most, as a result of this thing, are the elderly and the people that is depressed. And for me, that was terrible news. First of all, in 20, 30 years' time, I'm going to be the elderly, and given the amount of work that we do, the type of work that we do, we are also going to be the depressed ones. So chances are, the odds are completely against us when it comes to facing climate change in the future. This is the last slide here, and we're talking about how much time do we have left. And this is a paper, again, that was done as part of the graduate course, and that was published in the journal Nature. It's the concept of the carbon, the year of climate departure. Unfortunately, you cannot see the map there, I don't know what's happening with the lights. But this is a map, and the star points out Hawaii. And what you see here is the profile in temperature, and this is the time. This is the variability in temperature for the state of Hawaii in the last 150 years. From there, we take the minimum temperature and the maximum temperature, and then we look at our models to calculate the year after which temperature moves beyond the maximum temperature that we have seen before in Hawaii. That year is called the year of climate departure, and for the state of Hawaii, that year is the year 2029. This is the year after which temperature is going to be like something that we have never seen before in the last 150 years. Now, what is the timing? In red are places in which temperature is going to change pretty soon, and in blue, places in which temperature is going to change later on. As you can see, most of this map is either red or yellow. The average timing of climate departure for our whole planet is the year 2047. Can you imagine that thing? The year 2047, according to all of these models, is going to be marking the year after which the average temperature of the whole planet is going to be changing to something that we have never seen before. Of course, there is an error there on these calculations, a margin of error of about 10 to 20 years. It's not that perfect, and actually some scientists criticize the fact that the errors were so small. 20 years. So we were arguing over whether the climate is going to be changing in the next 10 years, a margin of error of 10 or a margin of error of 20. I mean, and that seriously get me all pissed off. I'm sorry. But how scientists are fighting over something that is going to change our planet, and we are arguing whether this thing is going to happen 10 years later or sooner. And this is what the scientists are fighting for. Isn't that sad? I mean, seriously, not due respect for those scientists, but that's pure pathetic, man. Now, as for the number of people that will change, we will have between 1 and 5 billion people living in places where the climate is going to be changing for good. So, one of the implications on these results is that we're going to live to see this. 2047 at the global scale is just 34 years into the future. So this is me right there. I'm 39 years old. In 34 years old, this is going to be me, and I'm going to be 74 years old. So that means that I'm going to live to see this. This is not something that I'm leaving as a legacy to my children. This is something that you guys and I are going to live to see. Now, this is all global scale stuff. Let's focus quickly in Hawaii, and this is the report by Seagrant of the impact of climate change in Hawaii. What they documented is that the temperature of Hawaii is already warming. The ocean is warming as well. The sea level is going up. These are the projected changes on sea level for the state of Hawaii. Here you can see they calculated that the shoreline in Hawaii is going to be about 1 full mile inland at a total cost of about $2 billion a year. This is just for here for Hawaii. There is going to be increasing drought in some places, decreased precipitation, ocean acidification, and human health impacted. All of these things, not things that will happen, things that are already happening. And just go and check out the report, very nice. This is my own interpretation now. Here, all of these changes are going to impact our food supply. This change is going to influence our housing, sea level rise. These changes are going to influence our jobs. These changes are going to influence our health. This one is going to influence our water supply. Now, the Washington Post did a report on this article, and they wrote that climate change will ruin Hawaii. This is the actual news article about this report. Climate change will ruin Hawaii. Now, my interpretation of this was, well, this thing, climate change, is going to influence our food, or housing, or jobs, or health, or water. I don't think this is going to ruin Hawaii. I think this is just a polite way of saying that we will be screwed big time. Now, let me finish. This is my last slide. There is something more to climate change, though, that is increase in warming and temperature. What we are doing is taking ecosystems that look like this into ecosystems that look like that. Unfortunately, we have very good scientific evidence to suggest that recovering from this could take up to 10 million years. Somehow we think that there's going to be a magic pill that is going to fix this thing. Forget about it. We have very good data already to suggest that these things have happened in the past before. We talk about 10 million years for us to recover from that. The ultimate consequence of these changes is extinction. And extinction is something that is happening, and it's seriously the reason why I do all of this work and I feel so passionate about it. Let me just give you a quick example of some of the species that have gone to extinction very recently. I hope you get the point. I hope seriously you get the point. And now let me tell you a reality. All of those species that you saw there are just a subset of the species that have been driven to extinction right here in Hawaii. This is not something that is happening in Colombia or Brazil. This is happening right here at home. At the global scale, and this is a paper that I published in the journal of Science, 20,000 species are driven to extinction every single year. 20,000 of them. I'm going to close there by saying a remark by Benjamin Franklin, who said, "We are all born ignorant, but one must work very hard to remain stupid." We already know exactly what we are doing, and we know exactly what the solution to this problem is. With that, I thank you very much and have a good day.